Good evening, everyone. I'm starting the class now. It's 6 p.m. We will continue our Java for test automation series. I will review the class structure part again, and also the print statement and comments. And today I will try to go in more detail. Hopefully, we'll all benefit from this. Okay, so let's start. First of all, in our first session, we talked about installing IntelliJ and having the Java JDK setup, and we talked about why we need JDK and how does IntelliJ help us. And this is where we ended. We started a project, and the project already lays out everything for us. Let me turn my camera on the side. Okay, here. All right. Okay, so let's begin. If you can see my screen. Okay, so Java is an object-oriented programming language. You're going to hear this many times throughout the course, and if you join the boot camp for becoming an STET, QA automation engineer, you will hear this a lot. Object-oriented programming. Object is the key here. Pretty much what we do with Java is we have classes, and each class defines an object, and everything is oriented around those objects. Again, you're going to learn more details about object-oriented programming. So it consists of classes. As I mentioned, classes are connected to objects. It's very important. And methods. So we're going to talk about methods. And then, so let's go practical. So here is our class, main Java class. As I said, we will have multiple classes in our project, but we will always have the main method in these classes. So you have the class and then a method. So what is a method? So let me quickly talk about a method. Method is a block of code that performs an operation. So here's a block of code, and you're expecting this block of code to perform an operation. And what happens here is it's printing out a message, hello world message. So that's what this method is doing right now. But this method is not specifically designed for printing out something, because this is the main method, and we will talk about the main method more detail. Okay, let me quickly show this part one more time. What is a method? Again, method is a block of code that performs an operation. And every single Java program must have the main method. And main method is the runner method of the Java program. Everything else that you write, you code, any statement, any clause, anything that you want to run must run under main method. So that's why the main method is very important. It is actually one of the technical interview questions. They're asking you to write the main method manually. So public static void main string args, that's the main method. So it is really important to know in Java that main method is a must-have in every single Java program. And in any class that we create, you don't have to have it in every class, but in any class we create, we will have a main method to be able to run the codes that we write in that class. Let's look at the class structure now quickly. So every single class has a access modifier. So this part, the public, private, protected. So there are three access modifiers. So these modifiers determine who can access this class and who can access this method, or what can access within the program. So when you make it public, that means in your program, any other package, any other folder structure from anywhere in your program, you can access this class. We will talk more about the access modifiers. And then you have to define what this is. It's a class and then the class name. So for any class, let's say if you want to create a new class, we simply right click on the folder, package, new, and then here we go, Java class. And when we open this new Java class module, it is expecting us to enter a name. Let's say first class. And in Java, this is one of the conventions that we're typing the class name with the camel case. First letter of each word capital and no space. There's no space. Again, that's really important. When you separate it, the JDK, the runner or the computer will consider these two as separate things. So no space, first letters capital, first class, and class is selected. So press enter. Here's our first class. So if you want to make this a little bigger, as you can see, it says no usage because we didn't call this class from anywhere. So that's why it's saying no usage, but this is not part of the application or the program. This is just IntelliJ telling us that you didn't use this anywhere. In every class, we will have the access modifier. This is a class and the class name. And these curly brackets, opening and closing curly brackets, left and right curly brackets, shows you the body of the class. So the code that goes in must go in between these curly brackets. Otherwise, it does not belong to the class. So how does the computer know that the code belongs to a class? With these curly brackets. So your class must have opening and closing curly brackets. So we said every class must have, every program must have a main method. So let's type in the main method, public, static, void, main, and then we have string, args, and now it knows. So as you can see, now it changed everything. No use is gone. There's still an error. You see the red line that shows you there's an error. Something is missing. If we come over, if you hover over, it actually tells you. It says it's missing the curly brackets, or it's missing semicolon. Here's our main method, and no complaint. What if I change this public's P to capital P? As you can see now, IntelliJ is telling me something is wrong with this. So from this, you can understand programming language, Java, is case sensitive. So every single keyword that you use, the case is important. If you change the case of the word, of any letter in the word, then it means something else. So now it says cannot resolve symbol public. It is the same public that we may think, but it's capital P public. But once I change it to lowercase p, then it stops complaining. And as I was typing, if you realize, IntelliJ is really intelligent. It's recommending me what I can type in. So it really helps with programming. We can use shortcuts. There are a lot of shortcuts for commonly used or frequently used statements, and IntelliJ helps you. And one other thing that I want you to realize is the formatting. As you can see, I left a space here and space after, not two, because the readability of your program is really important. And this indentation going with tabs is very important. If I put everything in one line, it doesn't even let me. Okay, that's even better. So the IntelliJ is not even letting me delete and just have them all in one line, because it is again important for the computer to read your code, and if you don't follow these indentations, it will not function properly. But don't worry, that's why we're using IntelliJ, and as you can see, IntelliJ is already taking care of the indentation and everything for us. So this is the class structure. Again, access modifier, class name, and then we have the curly brackets determining where the body starts and where the other body ends. And then within that, we wrote one method. We wrote actually we typed the main method, which is a must-have in any Java program. Okay, and that's it. So this is all about the methods and Java class structures. Let's see if I missed anything. All right, public, private, intending a scope. So we'll go deeper in the details. So, okay. So let's look at the print statements and comments. Why are they important? I talked briefly about these in the last lesson, but let's talk more about it. So this is our hello world class. So we want to print out something. Let's just, want to run something and we want the program to print something out. Here's what we do. So this is me being lazy right now. If I just put S out, IntelliJ knows what I want to type, and I just press tab button, it prints the print line for me. So system out print line. What does this do? This method, we're going to use this often. This method takes a string. String is a text. Okay. So let me just write those notes here. And meanwhile, I'm teaching you the comments again within this concept. So 2 forward slashes means this is not a code. So don't read it, skip it. So that's what I'm telling the computer right now. If I put 2 forward slashes, this is not a code. It's just a note or comment for myself. So system out print. So string, we said string. We're going to talk about that too, is a text. So here it's expecting a text. It wants to print something. And we always put the strings in double quotes in Java. Hello world. And now we have this method right here. This is a method. We call this method. And then this method, what does this method do? This method, this chunk of code, is performing an action, an operation, which is printing what's in it, as long as it's a text. And we always end the lines with semicolon. So we want to run this now and see if it works. As you can see, there are play buttons here, and there's a play button here. And also you can right click and click play button right here to run this method. So let's use this one, run first class main. That's what we're running right now. All right, here we have it. Hello world just came here. This is what we printed. If I want to print more, I will say system out. And then as you can see, it's recommending there are multiple print options. It's a Boolean char, many other things I want to print. This one, let's say, right, print. This is a string. Okay, so now I put these on 2 separate lines. So let's see how it's going to print right now. All right, so this is not exactly what we expected, right? We put them on 2 separate lines, but it printed them back to back. Because for the computer, it doesn't matter if we separate it with the line. Whatever the method does, that's what it shows here. So the method is printing, and we're printing back to back. I can separate this with multiple lines and then run it again. And the result didn't change. Same thing, because it doesn't care about these spaces. It means it tells nothing to the computer. It says, I just do what this method does. But there is it's a good thing, there's another method which separates the print with a line. It's the print line method. Let's run this one. And now we have more readable code. right? I mean, readable result. Hello world and a new line. This is string. Since this is not print line, if I just put another line here, right? This is a print line. Print, please print on a different line. All right, let's run it. All right, my please didn't work because it does not go with what I say, what I request here. It goes with the method. This method does not go to the next line. It says just print and stay there. This one is different. This one goes to the next line. So let's do this one. All right, print line. Now, if I want to run it, this time I'm going to right click and run it. There we go. Now we have all of them on a separate line. Okay, so here, let's put another comment. Each Java program should have a main method. So that's what it says right here. And then what about this? Let's test if our comment is working as a comment. Let's see if the system is gonna read this code. You know what? We don't need a separate line. Let's do this. Okay, so please print on a different line. It's still here, but it has 2 forward slashes. Let's run the code. As you can see, it skipped this line because when the system sees 2 forward slashes, it automatically says this is a comment. This is not a line of code, so I will skip. I'm not going to perform anything on this line. Okay, and then easy way to achieve this comment is with pressing Command on Mac or Control on Windows and forward slash. So that's the keyboard shortcut. Okay, so this is all for comment and print statements. Oh, I want to say one more thing about the comment. So why do we need a comment? Let's say I wrote a new method. Okay, so said, for example, public, and then let's make the static int add 2 numbers. And then let's say it takes 2 parameters. Talk about those things later more. And then it says returns A plus B. Okay, so this is a method and has no usage. Okay, it's again very nice of IntelliJ. It's telling us you just wrote a method, but you're not using it anywhere. So what I'm trying to do here is I have add 2 numbers method, right? So if I say add 2 numbers, see my method just showed up here, but it's expecting 2 numbers, 3, okay, 3 and 5, right? Now it's complaining. Result of this class is ignored. Yeah, because I'm not printing it anywhere. So I create the method and I'm using it here. My method name is pretty clear. I have 2 numbers and I want to add those 2 numbers and return those 2 numbers. Here's my return. I'm returning an int. So we're going to talk more about those variables later. And I want to return the product of adding 2 numbers, right? What if I just change this method name to something that I wouldn't remember, right? And then this will be M. And let's say this method is in a different class and I don't know this method and I just see this method in my code and I have no idea. There are 2 numbers. I don't know if it's adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. I have no idea. So this is an extreme example, but just to give you an idea why we need comments. So in this case, let's say I created something that's vague, not the name. It could be the content. And now I know it because I'm creating it now, but in the future me or somebody else reading this code may not understand why I wrote this. So I can say this method adds two numbers passed as parameters. Now with this comment, I know, okay, now I know what this code does, what this method does, right? So that's why it's really important to use the comments in your code to inform future yourself or anybody else reading your code. Okay, so that's another reason why we have comments, why we need comments. You will see once you once you start working and you know, get into a repository. Repository is the code. You keep the code in somewhere safe, usually on GitHub. And then you read other people's codes, because let's say at a company there are 100 developers. Let's say it's a small company, 100 developers. All 100 of these developers are all working on the same repository. So here's your repository. This is your repository. 100 people are working on the same repository. Sometimes, or maybe a lot of times, these 100 developers are working on the same class. Thousands of lines of code. You write something today and the next day you see somebody added something else and you have no idea unless there is a comment what that code is for. So that's why, as a developer, as an SDET is a software development engineer in test, so you're a software developer pretty much, you have to use comments efficiently in your code, so you yourself in the future or anybody else reads your code can understand what this block of code is doing. Okay. All right. So that's all for print statements and comments. Today, I'm going to do an introduction into variables and types. Okay. What is a variable? So we have, you know, text, we have numbers. That's all we know, right? As in normal life, if you see a text, let's say if you see this one, you just see a text, letters, and numbers if there are any. So there are none here. And symbols, you may see symbols, but in programming, symbols are part of the string, so they're part of the text. So we have to let the computer know what we're passing, what we're sending. If we're sending a number, we have to let the program know that it's a number. So let's say I need to declare a variable, right? So let's put some aside and see if I can show this. You have to declare in Java, for example, you have to say the data type and then name your variable and tell its value. For example, let's say I want to set a number variable, right? It will be int. Int is a number. So we will learn more in detail of these, okay? So you don't have to memorize. Int stands for integer. And let's say this will store birthday. All right. And my initial birth year, let's say, my initial value will be, let's say, 2000. So now I declared a variable. So this is like a box. I declared a variable birth year. And I said initially I put 2000 in this box. So whenever I say birth year, it will consider that as 2000. So that's my number. So let's say instead of a here, I can say birth year. You see, it just pulled it out. So I can say return. So let's just do this up here. All right, so make it more readable. And since we cannot see it unless we print it, let's put this in a print line, right? So let's say, not this one. Okay, so not this one either. All right, so, and there is no B so far here because we didn't declare it. So declaring a variable. If I say birth year plus C, it's going to complain. Why? Because there's no C. I did not declare anything as C. So C means nothing. So C what? So here, birth year. Let's run this one. So if it's gonna print this birth year, as you can see, 2000 is printed. But now I know it says birth year here, but when the program runs, it doesn't show anything. This is about like this, what this is. This is a birth year. So I can say here, I can add a text here with using double quotes. I can say the birth year is, and leave space, plus, we have those plus, so we're adding these two. This is a text, this is a number. So let's see how this is going to work. The birth year is 2000. So we declared a variable. So whatever we're going to use, text, number, there are multiple variables. And as you learn more about programming Java, you can understand why we have all those different variables. Well, let's say, for example, now I want to declare a string. String is a text, right? I complain because it's part of a string class. Not string, string. Name. Ape. All right, so now I want to add this name here, the birth year of, right? And then name, right? And I want to add here is, so to make it more readable, you have to add plus. So the birth year of name, this variable, is this. So let's run this. The birth year of Abe is 2000. Okay. So see how we can use this variable here. And imagine you can set a variable and you can use that variable multiple times, 100 times, instead of just typing Abe here, right? I could just type Abe here, or like this is here, right? It's used once. I have to type every time what this is if I want to use is anywhere, right? But if I declare a variable, I can use this variable anywhere. I can use this variable to calculate something. For example, I want to calculate, let's say, int, oops, don't get outside the curly bracket because that's the block ending. So int, I want to calculate, let's say, age difference, right? Or just age, right? So per age is a number. So that's why I say int age. What is the age is gonna be? Current year, right? Do I know the current year? I know. For now, I'm just gonna hard code it. This is called hard coding. So 2023 minus the birth year, right? So that's the age. So let's see what the age is. I mean, no, yeah. So let's print this out. I'm going to comment these out. So I'm selecting all of them, comment /. So these are all commented out, right? So now we're going to print two things. I'm going to comment this out too, so we don't see it here. So let's run it. So we said I'm declaring a variable age, and age is the current year minus birth year. So let's run it. Age is 23. I wish, right? So this is the age. So that's why we're declaring variables, because the variables you can use in multiple places. So I could have a birth year, assigned value, and then I could have, instead of this 2023, I could say, and there are data methods we're going to learn all about those things, but I can say current year, right? 2023. And instead of hard coding right here, I could say current year. And as you can see, IntelliJ recommended me that already. So if I run it, I still have the same result, current year minus birth year. So it's much more readable, right? Instead of putting exact numbers or just doing the calculation in your head, you're making the computer do the work for you. So imagine more complicated calculations or text string editing. So string methods you can use. So that's just a quick introduction to variables. So we're going to learn more about the variable types and where they're used, why we have so many of them. We're going to learn in more detail. So today it's 6:30 now. I'm going to end today's lesson. In brief, today we learned about the class structure, method structure. We reviewed the printing, the different printing methods. And also we learn about the comment. As you can see how useful that is. So now it's all commented out. I can just run one thing, or I can comment, undo the commenting out, and then I can run it again. And now I have everything again. So we learned about the comments, and we did a quick introduction to variables. So I will end today's lesson, and next time we're going to go in more detail in variables. Have a good night.